and welcome to MomBabes, a place where every mom is a babe. And if you say, Christina, I don't feel like a babe, I just got thrown up all over, then this episode is especially for you. I make videos for moms who are creatives. And if you object that you're not a creative, that's not true, because raising an actual human being is the most creative thing that you could ever do. Make sure that you subscribe and ding the bell to get notified when I release a new video. So today we are talking about how to sleep train your kid in 3 easy steps. And your first question might be, well, what is sleep training? Sleep training is basically training your kid to sleep without you. And when can I sleep train? Well, your baby does have to be 5 months old in order to start the process. So newborn mamas, just hold out. You can do things to kind of prep them before that, but if you want it to be actually effective and if you're gonna invest this time, you wanna wait till the baby is 5 months so that it sticks the first time. I know for me that I put it on my calendar and I got so excited about it and counted down the days until I could sleep train, because we all know how amazing that sleep is. This is my gift to you, probably because I wasn't able to be at your baby shower. So happy baby shower, let's sleep train the babies. Now you might ask, why should I sleep train? And this is the most important part of this process, because if you do not believe in your why, you're not gonna follow through on the steps. It is challenging, and so you need to hold tight to, why am I even doing this in the first place? For me, I was a 9 hours a night person before I had kids, and I know some of us do okay on like no sleep and chug a bunch of coffee and just make it work. But if you are watching this video, I'm guessing that you're more like me and you value your sleep, so welcome. I am going to give you some of the benefits that it had for me. Number one is that it gives you hope and it gives you a plan as you're going through those first postpartum newborn months. You're so tired. I know I had this thought of, I will never sleep again, but this assured me you will sleep again. You just have to make it to 5 months. It's gonna be okay. Another benefit is that it creates protected you time. It's time that you know you are gonna have to yourself, uninterrupted by kids. So for my creatives out there, it'll actually create space for you to be creative. It gets the kids out of your room, which creates intimacy in your marriage, not just physically, but also makes room for those conversations and the cuddles, and to really invest time in your partner. It creates the first boundary that you kind of will set with your baby. At least for me, it was kind of the first boundary that I created, where I made this step towards, there's room for me and this family too. There's room for my needs. The kids will actually sleep better. You will sleep better. Everybody sleeps better. You will feel more refreshed and energized and actually be able to show up for mom day without being totally exhausted and not even paying attention. So those were some of my benefits. I highly, highly recommend that when you decide why you're doing this, that you write it down so that during those nights you will have some reference of a reason to persevere. And here is where you insert your excuse of, my baby doesn't sleep, which mine didn't either, I understand. Or the excuse of, I already have so much going on, I can't handle another thing right now. And this will actually give you more time once you invest the initial 2 weeks or however long it takes. You can free up more time to do those things that are already overwhelming you. And if you say, my child is a strong-willed child, I also had one of those, it's still gonna work for you. The biggest objection is that it is hard to hear my baby cry. And I understand, I agree with you, but it is so worth it. And the benefits for you, the benefits for your baby, the benefits for your family far outweigh this very minute amount of crying that is going to happen only over a few days. Honestly, when I first heard of sleep training, I thought it was kind of dumb. I thought it was something that neurotic moms do. And I was for sure thinking that it was not gonna work for me. But I was so desperate to sleep, I was willing to try anything. So I was like, okay, I'll just give this a try. It's probably not gonna work, but whatever I'm doing right now isn't working anyway. Do I really need to sleep train? Is it actually necessary? And that is a question that only you can answer. You have to decide if the benefits outweigh the process of going through it. And I strongly, 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 strongly encourage you to try it, even if you're a little skeptical. There are also a lot of resources nowadays on varying sleep methods. Go ahead and check out the internet. There are gentler techniques that you may be more comfortable with, but your baby's gonna be okay. People haven't been like sleep training, but people have been training their babies to sleep for thousands of years. And if you really want some direct support, you can even hire a sleep consultant. That's a thing. I am not a sleep consultant. I'm just a mom that did it, and so now I'm showing you how to do it. But if you do need someone there and you have very specific questions or a very specific circumstance, then that might be something that would help you through this process. So what do I need to sleep train? First thing you will need is a safe space for your baby to sleep, like this crib I have here. Now, you don't want to put any pillows or blankets or stuffed animals or anything that could be a suffocation hazard. Just the firm mattress, fitted sheet, that's it. That's all you need. The second thing you will need is a sound machine. And you can do you don't have to spend a lot of money on a sound machine. I have a nice one that's plugged into the wall that does the changing colors and all that. But I also, when we travel, have the portable one that hooks onto the car seat as well. And when we're on vacation, I just plug it into the wall, keep it plugged in all night, and put it on the setting, and it works just fine. So you could probably do that at home if you're not wanting to spend a lot of money on a sound machine. The other thing that you will need is 5 to 7 pacifiers that you just toss in the crib. If your baby isn't taking a pacifier, I still recommend putting some in there, and quite a few, so they can reach around and grab them. Or if you have a crib like mine, some of them will fall out. So it's helpful to have multiples. And because your baby is going to be learning to self-soothe, the pacifier might be helpful now, whereas they never used it before. The other thing I highly recommend, but it's not a must, is getting some blackout curtains. If the room is dark, it will really, really help, particularly with naps. Right now, this video is more about sleep training at nighttime, but getting the room as dark as you can will be very, 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 very helpful. And if it helps your baby sleep, come on now. What's the extra? What are they, like $10? So here are your 3 easy steps for how to sleep train. Step number 1 is to establish a familiar repetitive routine for bedtime. Step number 2 is to place your baby in the crib with a pacifier. Step number 3 is the hardest step. Do not pick your baby up. And that's it. That's how you sleep train. So it's not a complex thing to understand, but it is often a difficult thing to execute, mostly because you're retraining your baby and your baby doth protest too much. So what kind of a routine should I do before I put my baby to sleep? For me, I always do it in the same order so that you will see even your baby will recognize, oh, it's time to go to bed. And they'll even start to get fussy because they know, oh no, it's time to go to bed. So I come in, even if the diaper doesn't need to be changed, I change the baby's diaper, put on pajamas, and then I will nurse the baby, read them a story, which you're not actually reading a book, you're just flipping through showing them pictures. It's for the process of having the routine. Put the pacifier in the baby's mouth, lay the baby down. So that's as simple as it can be. You can do bath time before, not do bath time, but you want those few little things you do right before bed, especially at the beginning, to be the same and be familiar so your baby will recognize that it is time to go to sleep. So sleep training overall is very easy to grasp and understand, but it's not that the process is so hard, it's that there's a lot of little caveats for your situation. So I'm going to go through a few of them, and hopefully this will answer some of your questions. So you understand what's happening is we are rewriting your baby's brain structure. We all know that the brain is made up of nerve pathways, and that as humans, we create similar pathways that your brain wants to fire over and over and over again. For your baby, that is, I eat while I fall asleep. My mother or father holds me while I fall asleep. And so we want to rewrite those nerve paths in your baby's brain, and this is the process by which we do that. So that your baby will learn, oh, I don't eat while I'm falling asleep. I can also fall asleep on my own. How long does it take? It's about 2 weeks maximum. It is going to depend on your child. For my first boy, he was sleep trained in 3 nights, and he was my strong-willed one, which for those of you with strong-willed kids will learn that they're smart cookies. So they get it really quickly. Even though they protest a lot, they will understand it pretty fast. So in 3 days, I was on to sleeping through the night with him. My second was 5 days, but still, I think there are kids, like I said, I only have experience with my 2, I don't know, but over about 2 weeks, I think is the maximum amount of days that you would have to do. But even if it did take the whole 2 weeks, it is so worth it for years and years and years and days and years of good sleep. You do have to commit to this process all the way. If you're going to be on the fence about it or kind of go halfway in, I would honestly say don't even bother, because that's going to be a lot of work for something that isn't going to produce any results. Not in like a mean way, it's just not going to work if you don't be consistent. Babies understand consistency. They understand hard boundaries. If you put them down one night, pick them up the other night, they're going to get confused and not know what to do. But if you are consistent, they will understand. They will catch on and be like, oh, I guess now I fall asleep on my own. So your kid is going to cry and soothe themselves to sleep. And it does suck. It definitely grates on your nerves. There's a reason why baby crying is used as a form of torture. Not that your baby's trying to torture you, but you get what I mean. It's hard to listen to. I know it sounds harsh, but your baby is going to be okay. And after your baby cries for a while, they will fall asleep on their own. Amazing. Now, if it helps you while you're listening to them cry, especially on the first night, you can time how long they cry. And it doesn't do anything for them, but if it gives you something to do and helps you gauge their progress, you will see that as they wake up and cry, the time will get shorter and shorter. So that might be encouraging for you. What I did was I would mute the monitor for 15 to 20 minutes at a time so I could get some rest, and then I would check on them visually on the monitor. You can also physically go into the room to reassure them that you're there. I think that's the theory behind it. I found that to be not very helpful. It usually made the babies more agitated and even angrier and cried even harder. So I stopped doing that after like 2 times, and I'm pretty strict on they're going to bed and they're gonna sleep through the night. So what is a normal amount of time for a baby to cry? So for my first, the first time I put him down, he cried for 17 minutes. I did time it that time. And then he fell asleep. And I think he woke up an hour or 2 later and then cried for only 15 minutes, and so on and so forth. And it got less and less. I think I had one episode the second night with him where he cried for maybe like 20 minutes again after going back down to 10. So you're gonna have a little range in there. For my second, he cried for 45 minutes the first time I put him down, and then passed out, and then woke up and cried for about 20 minutes, and it got less and less. So I'm sure that depending on your kid, it can range, but that was my experience. And yes, it is hard to listen to your baby cry for that long. I understand, but it is so worth it. It's only 2 weeks max. You got this. You can do it. Your baby is going to wake up multiple times throughout the night. They are going to cry. They're testing you to see if you're serious. Do not let them down. You must commit to the process, and they will make it. And I will say that the first 3 or 5 days, however long your training is, you are going to be a little tired. So I didn't really plan anything else. I kind of devoted those days, I would set aside at least a week for sleep training. Didn't plan anything, didn't go anywhere, and that was kind of our family goal. And that might be helpful for you because you are going to be a little tired. If you can't afford to do that, then you're going to muscle through like you do everything else, and it's still going to be okay. It's still going to work out. So one thing you need to think about is if your baby is heavy enough or has enough weight to sleep through the night. And that's something that you want to talk to your doctor about. So even if your baby isn't ready to sleep through the night, you can still sleep train. You're just going to continue with night feedings. So I'm going to go through the process of night feedings. So when you're going to feed your baby, the number one, basically only rule is they have to be asleep in order for you to feed them. You cannot go feed them when they're awake, because that will confuse them that, oh, I guess we're going back to this thing where I eat and fall asleep. So they must be asleep when you get them out of the crib and feed them. For me, I was nursing. I started with 3 feeds throughout the evening. So if they went to bed at 7, I'd feed them at 11, 1, and 3 or something like that. And so that's how I started. You don't have to start that way. For me, with my first, it was because he was underweight, and so I wanted to make sure he was getting those calories. For my second, it was because I had such terrible engorgement and blocked ducts that it was more for me. I had to nurse because I was just really, really in danger of getting mastitis. So it depends on your situation, but you can start with those night feedings and you will gradually wean them as your baby or as you are ready. Weaning the night feedings is pretty straightforward. You want to start with the one that's closest to when they're going to wake up. So for me, that would be the 3 a.m. feed is the one that I got rid of first. And so you just lessen the amount of time that you're feeding if you're breastfeeding. For me, I had to do increments of 30 seconds, which was really tedious, but I dealt with a lot of engorgement issues, so I had to go very, very gradual. So if I was feeding for 10 minutes, then the following night would be 9.5, and I'd actually have a timer there. The following night it'd be 9 minutes, 8.5, until I got down to 0 minutes. Your baby does adjust to that feeding. And if you're doing a bottle, you would just adjust the ounces, which should be 1 to 2 ounces per night as you're getting rid of each feeding. I kept one dream feed for a little while for both of them. So I weaned the other 2 pretty quickly, and then the 11 o'clock one I kept for probably a couple months until I felt ready or I felt like my baby was ready to wean that dream feed. Some concerns that people have are, what if my baby gets a hoarse voice because they cried so hard? Your baby is going to be okay. Eventually, after a few days, they're going to learn that they need to fall asleep themselves and they will stop crying and their voice will heal. What if my baby is sick and I don't want to let them cry and suffer? Obviously, through this process and through being a mom in general, you're going to use your mother's intuition. So if your baby is sick, then you're going to obviously adjust until they're well again and then restart the sleep training. If they're teething, I have found that this process actually works pretty well through teething. I had a baby that was very high pain tolerance. I didn't even know when he was teething. And my other one was a little more sensitive and he was a little more fussy. Like he would cry maybe like 5 minutes instead of 2 minutes when I put him down, but he still got through the teething okay without me having to go in there and cuddle him through the process. What do I do when I'm traveling? So we actually have traveled quite often with one and then now with both. And so you just want to do the best that you can in your traveling situation to recreate what you have at home. A portable sound machine is very, very helpful. As much as, I mean, we've been in Airbnbs where we put like towels over the blinds so that it would create a darker environment. If you have a pack and play, just bringing kind of the same style sheets that you have in home, having those pacifiers, and your baby will figure it out. For the most part, I was really surprised. I for sure thought, oh, this is going to be awful. We're not going to sleep on this trip, but they did really, really well. And so a sound machine, make it as dark as you can, give them the pacifier, give them a safe place to sleep, and you'd be surprised at how well they do in varying environments. And I know that the bedtime is going to change when you're on vacation because you're on vacation. Let's, have a later dinner or actually enjoy ourselves. And that's okay. You just do the best you can. And when you get back home, you'll resume your regular routine. So even if on vacation things were a little lax, when you get home, you'll go back to your regular sleep training and they'll pick it up quicker. What do I do if my baby is a night pooper? I had one of those. So around 1 year, my first started to decide that he was going to poop as soon as he got into his crib. So I would go in, wait till he is asleep, and do a diaper change and do the nurse. I kind of moved my feeding to a little earlier so that I could change his diaper and then put him back down again. So it kind of would work that way. If it's not that bad, then you probably could just throw a bunch of rash cream on there. I didn't want him to sleep and poop all night, so I changed his diaper. But like I said, if you're going to do that, you kind of like the feed, you have to wait until your baby's asleep. And if you want to consolidate changing the diaper with the feed and just do it all at once, change the diaper first and then feed and then put the baby back down. That's my recommendation. I would like to hear about your success stories. If you tried this sleep training, how it worked for you. If you have any questions about anything that's more specific, go ahead and put them in the comments below. If you know more about sleep training than I do, go ahead and throw in some advice to help out our community of moms. I'd appreciate that. And I want to thank you guys for listening and joining me today. Hopefully this has been helpful, and I will catch you next time on MomBabes. Also, if no one has told you yet today,